Alright, so here we have a word problem involving partial derivatives and the gradient vector. So the question states you are hiking on a hill whose elevation at point xy is given by a function fxy equals 100 minus x squared minus y squared. So the question asks us three things. Number one, find the gradient vector at point 34. Number two, find the steepest direction. And number three, the rate of change in that direction. So let's start with question number one. So what we're going to have to do for question number one is basically find the gradient vector at point 34. So let's start by finding the gradient vector. And the gradient vector can easily be defined like this, right? So the gradient vector, in this case, is going to be equal to the partial derivative of f with respect to x, right? And the partial derivative of f with respect to y. Alrighty? Okay, so now let's first find the partial derivative of f with respect to x. So our function, let's write that out. F xy is basically going to be equal to 100 minus x squared minus y squared. So, if we look at it with respect to x, remember, the terms that we practically have to worry about here are, only term we actually have to worry about here would actually be this term, because we know we have a constant value here, right? And we know what happens to a constant value when we're taking the derivative of it. So, this practically becomes 0, so it becomes 0, and this we actually do have to take the derivative, so it becomes minus 2x, and this minus y squared, it's not attached to an x or anything, and it's just a y, so we can forget about it, so it becomes minus 0. So what we're left with is just negative 2x. Alright, now we're going to take it with respect to y, so we have this with respect to y, and remember, we are only going to care about y in this case, so this and this. We don't have to take the derivative of that, so it's just going to come 0 minus, we do have to take the derivative of 100, which is 0. So 0 minus 0, which replaces 0 for this x, we won't worry about that. And this minus y squared is just going to become minus 2y. Okay, so we're going to get negative 2y. And so, right, and so this gradient vector, I'll make this in blue, our gradient vector is going to be equal to negative 2x, negative 2y. Now, they gave us a point, which is 34, right? And our point in this case was 0.34. So, this just tells us to plug this into this, right? So, let's say I have an x that's 3 and my y is 4. So, let's plug that in. So, therefore, I'm just going to put an equal sign. Or actually, this is a better way to write it, because we can do this. This is what we're supposed to do, right? And this is going to be equal to negative 2 times 3, which is basically going to be negative 6. And our y is going to be negative 8, right? Negative 2 times 4. So therefore, we've got it. We've got what we're looking for. We found the gradient vector at our point. I'm going to actually circle this in red. So there we go. That's the first part of our question. Now let's move on to the second part. So for the second part of our question, it asks us to find the steepest direction. So something really neat is that the gradient vector is going to point in the direction of the greatest increase of f, right? In regards to the point, right? And that is actually going to be the direction of the steepest ascent, right? So we can technically state that the steepest direction, right, or ascent is basically towards what we've got here, which is going to be negative 6, negative 8. Alrighty. Now let's move on to question 3. Alright, so the final part to this question asks us for the rate of change in that direction. So we found our gradient vector at the point 34 to be this, right? Let me write this down. To be negative 6, negative 8, correct? Now, in order to find the rate of change, right, in that direction, the maximum rate of change, if I may call it, what we have to do is just find the magnitude of the vector, right? So let's do that. Just want to use these two symbols to show that we're taking the magnitude. Pretty sure it's similar in physics as well. The magnitude of the vector is just going to take square root, remember, Pythagorean theorem. So it's going to be negative 6 squared, right, plus negative 8 squared. And when we do the math, we get that this is equal to an answer of square root of 100, which is equal to 10, right? So 10 is the rate of the steepest increase of the hill at that specific point, and the direction is going to be the gradient itself, which is negative 6, negative 8. So hopefully that made sense. And that's it for this video. Hope it helped. Have a good day.